All right, pay attention, Generation X. This episode, I have an amazing guest with me, Lori McBride. She has over 20 years in the corporate IT arena, and she entered the online business space focused on the mechanics of funnels, specifically sales pages. Lori believes that every woman has a story that they are being called to tell. Her passion is helping the Gen X Christian woman stand out with their story. This conversation was so fun. I'm a Gen Xer, Lori's a Gen Xer, and for those of you listening that are Gen Xers, you don't want to miss this episode. She shares in the conversation certain perspectives that we haven't really thought about coming from this generation. Whether it's helping you tell your story with video, your copy, or tech skills, Lori's goal is to uplift. She combines genuine instruction with accountability and encouragement that demonstrates the mindset of the entrepreneurial success. Lori's expertise with customer experience, storytelling, and technology provides a unique combination of skills that resolve your issue and return you to your true north. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was so much fun talking to her. You're probably going to end up going down memory lane with us, and that's all okay. So let's get to it. Hello, and welcome to Starting a Business Simplified, Navigating the Shift, a podcast for those of you looking to transition from a medical career to starting an online business. I will be sharing how to get started, success stories, and more. If you are looking to make the move from medicine to online, but don't know where to start, or have a business but are looking for business tips and encouragement on your journey, this is the podcast for you. I'm Suzy Raines, your host, and I look forward to helping you simplify starting a business. Hi, Lori. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Suzy, thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to talk to you because you and I come from the same generation, Gen X, and we are women entrepreneurs, business owners. So, for those of you out there listening, this episode really is going to talk to that generation, to our generation. Before we dive in, I would love to have you share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what brought you to owning your own business.
Yes, my name's Lori McBride, and I basically had a corporate career in IT with state government systems for like about 20 plus years. And then I transitioned into helping Gen X women who want to stand out with their story and incorporate it into their sales and marketing process in their funnels and overcome tech frustration. Because as we all know, online business requires technology, and you could be dealing with frustration from your technology on a daily basis. That's what I help people with.
That's awesome. And coming from a corporate background in IT, and I'm going to speak to our listeners a little bit here. Most of our listeners, they're coming from a structured environment. So working in healthcare or in a medical clinic or of that sort. And they have IT people. So they just, here's your login, just go ahead and go and do what you need to do. Here's the program. And everything is taught to us. So when you leave that environment and then now you're on your own, you're on your computer at home, your laptop, whatever you're using, the sky's the limit. It's like you can use whatever you want to build your business, and it's intimidating and scary. So, what are some things that you see, or what are some things that you do to help that transition going from working in an environment where everything's taken care of to now you have to figure it out on your own?
Well, that's a great question because what I see out in the online business space as a whole is not much regulation as far as technology is concerned that's being practiced. And I'm not really talking about federal regulation per se, but rather like best business practice regulation, right? And what I mean when I say that is we've all seen a lot of people trying to do business within a social media platform, whether that's Facebook or Instagram, in the DMs and stuff, but they don't really have the systems they need set up. So this can really lead you to be vulnerable and liable in your business if you do not have the proper tech systems set up. So not only is there's not a lot of regulation or best business practice being taught, right? But there's also not a lot being taught on how to choose the tech tools that are right for you, depending on what your business is and where you're at in your business. So, what I do is help the person who has come out of corporate and now it's on their own and they're not sure where to start. I work with them, I basically interview them and figure out how they're helping their audience. And then, based on a few factors, but the number one factor is where they're at in your business, I help them to determine the types of systems they need and what will work best for them.
That is so needed. I know when I started out, I had a corporate background, so I had a little bit of an idea, but the only thing that I really knew was Microsoft Office. It's like,
Right.
and
That's what
for those,
everybody knows.
yeah, yeah. And then when you get out there and you start poking around and you're like, oh, there's this and there's that, and there's so much. It's completely overwhelming. I love that you touched on building your business on another platform, on social media. Yes, 99.9% of our business systems are online in the cloud, but social media is for social media and they are in control of everything. And so if you do everything on there and you're not keeping a record somehow on another system, on your computer or on the cloud that's yours, your business owns, that you can save, your account can get shut down anytime on social media. And I've known people that have had that happen and they've lost everything because they were just keeping track of it on social media. So I love that you bring up that point. We're going to transition just a little bit because I wanted to talk a little bit more towards your particular audience, which are Gen Xers, which we are. I am too. Um, what are some of the things that you notice about our generation when they are going from in person to online in starting a business and communicating with people?
Right. And even before I get into that, I just really also wanted to include real quick that when I did transition from corporate to having my own online business, I just want to encourage everyone out there because even though I'd been in IT for all these years, I really did feel like I was in kindergarten when I made this transition. I really did have to dig in, learn the systems, and learn the structure of how to have a online business. Right. And that really does speak to Gen X, right? Because half of our life was spent doing business or doing, interacting with people in person. Up until the 90s, we did everything in person. And then for most of us up until the 2000, we still did most things in person, but now we are doing them exclusively online. So one of the other things I told you I felt like I was in kindergarten. One of the things I struggled with the most was being able to communicate with people online. I had a coach early on, and she was like, "You need to go live. You need to go live." And I just straight out refused to go live for like a year. And I was just like, "I'm not doing this." Okay, then I got past that and I was okay going online, but I still really had something that was blocking me from communicating with people in comments on social media, in the messages in social media, and just having those conversations with them that you really need to have with them in order to let them know you're the person that can help them. So I was just going around and around, and all of a sudden I realized things that some of this barrier had to do with things I was told when I was growing up. Like, we were all told as Gen Xers, you need to look someone in the eye when you're talking to them so you can know that you can trust them. Also, something simple that parents tell their children, right? Like, don't talk to strangers. Okay, those 2 statements right there, if they were told to you when you were a child, even if it was in love, right, not being scolded or anything, they stick with you. And then you go to have your business online, and then you realize why you can't talk to them. And once I realized those were the types of things that I was told, I really just did some exercises to break through them, and I overcame it. And, so if you're out there and you're Gen X, I just encourage you to think about what you were told, or, you'll be a fool if you put yourself out there. You'll give the family the bad name if you'll embarrass the family if you put yourself out there. There's a whole set of them. I believe each person has their own set, and if you realize and do some work around it, it will really help improve your communication with your ideal clients in your business.
Yeah, there's so many of those that I can resonate with, that working with people face to face all through junior high and high school. I worked in retail, and oh my gosh, customer service was face to face. Even if you got somebody on the phone, it was better to talk to them in person. And it was like you only used the phone if you absolutely had to. It wasn't a regular thing. And like you said about the technology too, it has changed so rapidly, and it continues to, even when you and I are working our businesses online right now. As we're talking, a new technology is launching and
That's
stuff's
right.
happening. We don't even know what it is. It's out there, and some people know what it is, and the ones that do will share it eventually, but it's happening. And we grew up through all that. We grew up without we had a telephone. I'm not dating myself that far. We had telephones, but we didn't have cable TV.
Nope.
We did,
We went
you know.
Yeah, we went from think about it this way, everybody out there who's Gen X, just give themselves a break, right? Because we went from rotary dial, and I had party line when I was, like,
Yeah,
12,
yeah.
okay, to, like you said, I had 3 fuzzy channels, to cable TV, to the internet, to having a device that I hold in my hand that does everything for me, and now even the craze with AI. So, our particular generation of Gen X, when it comes to technology, has seen the most rapid change of any generation technology-wise. So, I'm just saying, give yourself a break. You can make it happen, and you can do it. You have to understand and be kind to yourself from that perspective.
I love that, because that ties into so much of our identity and who we are. You know, we grew up a certain way. We forget because it's subconscious. Like you said, those things we were told as a child, that was just ingrained and programmed into our brain. And now it just sits back there. We don't consciously think those things, but we don't understand when we get stuck because it's there and it's happening. What are some ways that you help our generation to know, like, what our story is, what our business identity is, how to share who we are with our people in our businesses?
Right. So I just start out by working with you and listening to what your story is. And in working and listening to you on what your story is, or if you've already written it already, right? Or you don't have to go write a whole autobiography. You could write just stories that that you use that connect with your audience. And I just read those stories, and then I get an idea of what you've been through. What were some of those things that you were told that may be hindering you and blocking you from being visible in your business? Then we focus on the story itself, and we really go deep, and I work with you to pull things out of you. That's the best way I can say it, is just pull the things, read your story, pull the things out about your story that are maybe deeper, that maybe you didn't even realize to highlight. And then we work on using those to connect with your audience on a deeper level, right? Because especially in our society today, we're kind of surface level. And if we want to really connect with people, and like I said, that we can't see or look in the eye, we really need to use our story to connect with them on a deeper level in order to let them know that we are their person to be working with.
Yeah, and technology gives us it's kind of a double-edged sword, because with that being said, it's so easy to come across surfacey because it's just words, or even in a video sometimes, depending on what you're sharing. But then on the flip side, if you do know what to say and how to say it, how to share your story, it can be extremely powerful. And then the people who you're speaking to, they hear you. And it goes through all that noise. And then it's like, hey, Lori just said something, just reading Gen X women entrepreneurs. I'm like, okay, I need to talk to Lori because I'm a Gen X women entrepreneur and I totally get what you're saying. And it's finding those things that really, for me, I speak to women who are leaving medical careers because that's my story. I came from working in a medical setting and transitioned to my own business in order to get away from some of the stressors that were happening in the medical world for me. And I know that story resonates with a lot of people that are in that situation. So I absolutely love that. What are some of the things that you help with when someone comes to you and says, "I don't know what technology I should be using?" Do you have something that you go over with them to figure out, okay, because this is your type of business, this is the type of technology you should probably be using?
Yes, I do have a process that I use with them, and it focuses on a few factors. And each person and their business is really individual. We do have a set of tools out there for all the different things you need to do customer relationship management, which is CRM, funnels, email marketing, etc. We do have a selection of those, but it really depends on where they're at. You wouldn't want to buy a really ultra expensive tool when you're not exactly sure who your audience is just yet. And you really need to work on who they are and communicating to them through social media and email and funnels. And this is just my feeling based on my experience. Really, if you're new to online business, I would say you need to start with an entry level tool and then work on it for a year. I'm not saying you can't make sales within the year. What I'm saying is use that entry level tool for a year just so you can get a really good understanding of what email marketing is, landing pages, sales pages, how to manage a customer, how to have a call. They're all things we need to manage in our business, but sometimes when we spend too much money, we end up getting paralyzed because you open the software. And when you open the software, there's so many different buttons and it's like, ooh, ah. And then what I found a lot of time in the women I'm speaking with is that they're just paralyzed. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just gonna turn it off," you know?
Yeah.
And so I work with them individually. It's more to it than that. But in general, I just recommend the entry level tools. Then you're only paying a few dollars a month or $10, $20 a month, maybe even 30 rather than 50 to 100 and some of them into 4 or $500 a month. It can get pricey.
Yeah, and understanding which one you need. So I love that suggestion of starting with the entry level because you don't know what you need until you need it. So it's better to start small and work with what you have. And I'm going to speak to our generation here too, because I tell my clients this all the time. Write out your system on a piece of paper.
Yep.
Figure out from, okay, once I sell to a client, what happens? What are the steps? Because doing that is going to tell you what technology you need. Same goes for if you post and you want to generate leads. It's okay, what do I need to do in each step of that process? So I need to write a post for social media or I need to write an email to send. Whatever that is, that's step number 1. Okay, then if they reply or if they sign up or if they step 2, piece of paper, pen and paper. I'm going to talk to our generation. We don't have a computer, we have a pen and a piece of paper.
Yep.
Write it down because once you get the technology and you go talk to Lori, you can tell her, "Hey, this is what I need to do." And she can say, "Oh, here's a couple of options that do just those little things that you need done." And then you don't end up spending a ton of money on something that does all the bells and whistles that you're not even going to use or not having enough. So your process is really lengthy or you have a lot of follow up you have to do. And you end up with a system that can't do that. And then you're doing more work than you should be. If you are ready to get going in your business but don't know where to start, download Starting a Business Simplified guide. This step by step guide will create a business plan you can follow and know all you need to know to start your business. Click on the link in the show notes to get a copy today.
Yes, I completely agree. I think standard operating procedures, which is basically what you're talking about, is where to start. You need to basically sit down and think about how do I help someone, right? When we're in corporate, we just help someone and they pay us and they determine our wealth. Now that we're entrepreneurs, we're in charge of determining our wealth and we have to sit down and really think about what is every single thing I do and document it. And we're just not really trained that way. And then once you have your standing operator procedure or, the steps that you help someone with, then you can use those as a foundation to also create your standard operating procedures when you add the system to the process. And then once you're established in your business, take both of those and hand them over to the staff or to the virtual assistant that you'll be able to hire so you can even give more value to your customers.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue. When you're ready to hire people, you don't have to explain everything. Having documentation and having that process flow, you can just hand it off, and that makes it so much easier. I love
Yes,
that.
and I just think not doing that, it hinders your process, it hinders your productivity, and it hinders your success, but again, as Gen Xers, we may not realize that based on all our other previous experience that we've had, right? We were trained in school to memorize everything and get straight A's. We weren't necessarily trained to write it all down and document it.
That is a you're like spot on with these points because again, it drives me crazy that I have to look in my phone for a phone number because I memorized every phone number that I ever needed to use when I was a kid.
Yes, every
Like,
one of them, every one of them.
yeah. You memorized the phone numbers and you memorized addresses. You knew where people were. You didn't need them. And
Right,
you knew, even in the
right,
bigger cities.
yep,
I mean, New York City is huge. And I guarantee you that people in our generation, if you're listening and you're in New York, you're going to resonate with this. You knew your blocks, this
that's right.
street and that street. I grew up in a small town in Alaska, so I knew everybody anyway. But I guarantee you, before there was Google Maps and other electronic mapping, it actually drives me crazy now when I have to look up an address because I feel bad. I actually have guilt.
Isn't that
Like
weird?
I should know
Yep,
this. Like
yep. Isn't
I
that
feel
weird? That's the way we were trained. But
yeah.
yeah, I never looked at a map until I was out of college and I grew up in a rural area and I moved to DC. I never used a map till I moved to DC. I didn't need to use one.
Yeah, and but even when we moved, I moved to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona when I was in my 20s. And even though I looked at a map, I had to look at a map, but once I did, I memorized it.
Right. I know.
You
You know?
memorized it like you didn't rely on the map, you
And then
memorized it.
I know, and then here's the thing. Then you go to a city. I traveled a lot for my job. You'll go to a city and you might be at a coffee shop and you just work there and someone's asking for directions and you tell them because the people who live there don't know how to tell them and you never even lived there, you just work there.
Yeah.
It happens. It's just the Gen X thing, that's what we were taught.
Yeah, and you're just, like, awakening so many things that I don't even realize are there.
Yeah. I mean, this all just happened to me in the last few years. I was grinding away just like we all do. And all of a sudden, I just had to spend this time and have these revelations about what does it really mean to be a Gen X as an entrepreneur and an online business owner? What does this really mean for us? And it came out with this whole structure that I realized we each have that really affects our success. So it's interesting. I just love working with people on it though, because I just like helping people realize, oh, this is what the issue is. It's not you, right? It's not you. We're all trained to think it's us. There's something wrong with us, something bad with us. No, it's just something that happened that we need to work through and work on.
It's just how we were raised.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole memorization thing now, you just I just had a realization talking to you about my CRM. So, for those of you that don't know, you're starting a business and you may not know these terms, and Lori mentioned it earlier, but customer relationship management tool. Basically, you keep track of the people that you talk to and you go in and you can put notes in and reminders. It's so that you can keep in touch and know what's going on with that person. So it's this relationship you have. Just now, Lori, I realized I have a block around my CRM. I get frustrated that I have to put a reminder in. because I'm used to memorizing everything
Yep.
and it bothers me. Like I I get like frustrated. I'm like, why do I have to document? Why do I have to go in here and put a reminder or put a note about somebody when I should already know? I should know their phone number. I should know their address. I should know everything about them because we grew up getting to know people at that intimate level and knowing everything about them and
Right.
memorizing it and
Yeah.
always having it. And we didn't have a device. We didn't have
Right.
technology.
Right.
That's so crazy.
I've been going through it myself, really. I've been going through it. And whoever's out there, just do that work and you'll realize some of these things. You'll be like, oh my goodness, this is what's blocking me. Oh my goodness.
And being okay with it. So, like, just now, that
Right.
little revelation that I had, now when I go into my CRM, I'm gonna embrace the process and I'm gonna say, "It's okay. Hey, it's okay that I don't know who everybody is." I was just looking at my calendar, looking ahead to see what bookings I have and podcast interviews and stuff, and I had to go back in and look people up, and it was starting to bother me because I was like, "I should know who this person is. What is wrong with me? It's not me." Like you said, it is
Right.
not me.
It has to do with the things we were told. And we were told those things when none of this existed. No internet, no tools, no funnels, no nothing. I mean, there still was like person to person funnels, but none of this stuff existed. None of it.
Yeah.
And here we are coming into this with those things, those thoughts.
Yeah, and how many people do we interact with on social media? And that's even just with reading, so just getting information, plus interacting, so commenting, maybe DMing, video chat. How many people do we actually have touch points with because of technology? But as a Gen Xer, we only maybe would have a handful because it was in person or maybe a phone call. And we're trying to use what we learned without technology with this mass amount of people now that we're talking to. And it's not that it's a bad thing that we can't remember people. It's just we physically, as human beings, don't have the capacity. Like technology is bigger than we are. And that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it is all bigger than we are. And we have to understand that systems are there to help us with it. And one of the things that did help me in this whole journey is I was a software tester. I designed software pages that people use in different states and stuff. And technology, you have to understand, technology is really based on the unknown. That's the whole point of it. It's based on the unknown and creating something from nothing to help us be more efficient, right? And we don't really like the unknown. So when we log in and we see all that stuff on the desktop or the dashboard, we just are like, oh my goodness, I don't know every single thing in here. I was trained to know everything, but when I look at this, I don't know anything and people freeze up. But for me, it was frustrating and everything. But I just applied those same things that I did in my corporate career to this, which is okay, click here, click there, just click all around, keep digging at it, dig at it, dig at it, dig at it. And sooner or later, you'll be like, oh, okay, I got this now. Or I can just be honest with you. Even when it comes to Facebook, which changes every like 2 minutes, I Google that stuff. Okay. I am the tech person. But for Facebook things, I just Google how to do this. I have a group I'm running, how to do this in the group, just so I know where to go because I just haven't been in there. There's too many platforms to memorize.
So the takeaway for this I'm feeling is for those of you who are listening that are Gen Xers, you don't have to memorize everything. It's okay to watch a YouTube video, to search on
Right.
Google, because I think we're beating ourselves up.
We sure are. We're really awfully hard on ourselves as Gen X, and we're beating ourselves up based on what happened when we were growing up, just as far as what our culture was like. And now we just have to understand that it's just completely different now and give ourselves mercy and grace and have some self-care, right? So somebody taught me about self-care and I was like, nobody ever said anything about self-care when I was growing.
No,
So it's
no,
all
no.
new. It's all new.
We are the doers.
That's right. We're the doers.
We are the workers. You started work when you were a teen and we haven't stopped.
That's right. That's right. And then we feel guilty if we're not working. We feel guilty if we're not working. Whoever's out there is a Gen Xer, don't feel guilty if you're not working.
It's okay.
Yep.
Yeah. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Lori, for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed it so much. I just enjoyed like I said, if I had not overcome the barrier of talking to people online, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So I'm just excited that now I'm just having great friends online,
Yeah.
you know?
I had that happen too. The first time that I was gonna do a Zoom call, I was so nervous. I was like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna see me, and I'm talking on the phone. This is so weird." And now I'm so grateful. I just did a podcast interview yesterday with a lady in Australia, and it was so amazing.
I know, Australia. We couldn't do that when we were growing up,
No, I love it. I've made so many friends globally,
right?
and you're in Florida, I'm in
Yep,
Colorado, and here we are having this conversation, and who
yep,
knows who's listening across the world.
yep.
I feel blessed for our generation, but I also love that you're highlighting how we think differently and that it's okay.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Let everybody know how we can reach you, and I'll make sure and put it in the show notes as well. But what's the best way if they want to reach out to you?
Okay, you can reach me. Well, I'm gonna go old school here first. You can email me at Lori@LoriMcBride.com. And then on Instagram, I am Lori McBride Official. And on Facebook, I am Lori L. McBride. And on LinkedIn, I'm also Lori McBride Official.
Awesome. I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes so that people can just click because that's what we do now. Don't have to
Right.
memorize any of this information. Thank you so much, Lori, for being here. And as always, for my listeners, keep it simple. Thanks for listening to this episode of Starting a Business Simplified, Navigating the Shift. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on your favorite podcasting platform so you'll never miss an episode. This podcast is for you, so be sure to reach out and let me know what you thought about this episode. You can join our Facebook community, Women Medical Professionals Starting an Online Business, where we share resources and information as a community. Click on the link in the show notes to join.